Hey, welcome back, everyone. I'm DJ Svihlik, host today for The War Room. Fresh off our top 150 for everybody listening to this, visit the webpage. We've got a whole bunch of rankings out there. We got top 10 pitchers, top 10 high school guys, top 10 college guys. We got a combined 150. We got a high school list. We got a college list. So a lot of really good content for everyone to go visit and review. It's a great week. It's draft week. We've recorded a show yesterday. A lot of Advil being consumed in these major league front offices right now. Heck, I'm not even picking players this year, and I'm pretty excited and overwhelmed just by the amount of information that you have to go through to rank these players and whatnot. It's an exciting time. It's a time that fans, fan bases, organizations, owners, you romanticize over this because it's opportunity. And every time you have a great opportunity, yeah, it's stressful, but it's also a lot of fun. There's a JT Realmuto out there this year. There's going to be a third round pick that's going to significantly outperform his draft position. There's an Aaron Judge that quickly people are going to realize, how did this guy fall all the way down to the comp or second round? Or a Michael Trout that's going to go. That's the great thing about the draft. You look back, the one thing we know is the order is going to be wrong. But in the moment, you can only make selections with the information that you have, and teams have spent a lot of time putting these boards together. So best of luck to, best of luck to all the teams out there, because I know how much work goes into this. Before we get to our prospect today, we're going to go back to our prospect spotlight series. We're going to have a guest on here in a second. One of the best high school right-handed pitchers in the country. Risky, sure. I don't want to rehash everything that we've said, but if you have a really defined checklist, you can really minimize the risk. And what's the checklist? We talk about the stuff that these players have, this whole concept of, does he have 2 of 3? Does he have 3 of 4? So what are we talking about there? Pitchers, high school pitchers that come in with now stuff. That means he's going to come in with at least an average fastball and at least an average breaking ball and at least average command. And a lot of times one of those things will be plus. What we don't want is the player to come in and invest a lot of money in a player that's missing 2 or 3 of those things. So whether you have a now fastball with now fastball command and we need to develop your breaking ball, or you have a now breaking ball and now fastball and we need to develop your command a little bit. So long as you're coming in with 2 or 3 of those things, and of course we've got some measurables. We don't want dead zone fastballs out of high school players. As long as you have 2 of 3, you've got a fighting chance. And you start mixing in athleticism and you start mixing in some makeup. And now you're really, really mitigating some of that risk that seems to be out there when we talk about high school pitchers. And certainly, if you come in with 3 or 4 of those things, you give yourself a great opportunity to succeed. And the team gives himself a great opportunity to get a 2-war player, which is what we talk about. So I'm excited to have our guest on today. He's one of the top high school pitching prospects in the country from a state that produces tons of major league players. He was a fast riser for us this year, pitched really well last summer. So I want to welcome on Brilann Dodie to our show right now.
Hey, what's up?
Brilann, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Tell me these interviews aren't good. Did you enjoy the combine? I want to go right to that. Did you enjoy the combine?
I did. I had a great time there. It was awesome to meet all the teams that I did and be able to do the stuff that I did there.
Yeah. What did you go through? A lot of people listening here might not know you. You know, there might be a Pittsburgh Pirate fan out there, and you might be a Pittsburgh Pirate in a week. Who knows? They don't know much about Brilann Dodie. So what did you do at the combine? What did you enjoy? Did you throw? Did you just meet with teams? What'd you do?
Yeah, I didn't throw at all. Just met with like 20 something teams. There was a lot of teams I met with. Did a couple of interviews with some guys out there and just did the medical stuff and some jump testing, and that was about it.
Yeah.
No throwing, just kind of hanging out and talking to people.
Was it easy for you? You strike me as a very even-tempered, even keel. I've talked to a lot of people about you. Even-tempered, cool cucumber. So when you walked into those rooms, was that an easy thing for you to do as a young 17, 18-year-old guy?
Yeah, for me, not really, because I'm a very quiet kid. I don't talk very much. So, I mean, I got used to it after I did 3 or 4 of them in a day.
Yeah,
But yeah, not a huge fan of like going around and talking to a bunch of people. Just
sure.
I like to stay to myself.
Did anybody stump you? Did you get any questions where you're like, geez, I don't even know what to say there?
I've had a couple that did like, wow, that's a good question. But for the most part, it's just like in home meetings or on the Zoom calls. Like it was pretty standard. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, okay. Any wild questions? Like if you were an animal, what would you be? I know teams like to ask that stuff sometimes.
Nah, no questions like that.
All right, let's get to what people want to hear. It's not your pitching. It's the 65-yard field goal. There's a rumor floating around out there that a young Brilann Dodie blasted a 65-yard field goal. True or
Yep,
false?
that's true. Went
Take
out
us through
there.
it. Take us
Yeah,
through it. What like this is the interesting things that people like hearing about players. Like, really? Well, if he's not a good pitcher, at least we got the guy that's got a big leg, right?
yeah, yeah. Just
So
I went out there with a buddy, just kind of messing around. Like, let's just go try out for the team. This was senior year.
yeah.
So we went out. Um, his name's Darren Osholo. He was the running. He's going to be a running back for them, and I just went out there to go kick some footballs and ended up punting like an 80-yard punt or something and 65-yard field goal. They're like, "All
Where
right,
the
you're hired."
so growing up, were you a soccer player at all? You told me that you played some flag football, but were there other sports involved? Because you look real athletic on the mound.
Yeah, yeah. I played everything when I was younger. I played basketball, soccer, flag football, golf, just a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Didn't play. I stopped playing after 1 year of soccer, so it wasn't like I was playing all the way up. There's just a
Yeah.
year of soccer, a year of basketball. Still play golf. Obviously, still play baseball,
Yeah.
um, and then
And a
all this
two-way
playing.
guy. I mean, you're not a PO, right? I mean, you hit.
Yeah,
We had a 2 home run. From what I understand, we had a 2 home run game this year, right?
multiple actually.
Multiple 2 home run games. The
Yeah,
last time I was down in your neck of the woods, I remember Marietta Valley had a really good shortstop, Tyler Wade. So that was the last time I was.
yeah,
And you're in Temecula, right? Or right around
yeah.
Temecula?
I'm
Yeah,
I'm like on the border of Marietta and Temecula.
that's great. What you know, we meet these young players, and one of the things you and I talked about off air, you don't arrive at this position by yourself. Most people have mentors in their life. Most athletes, they have, and it could be a coach, it could be a friend, it could be a parent, it could be a number of different people. Maybe it's a teacher, maybe it's a coach from a different sport. Who's helped you get to where you are at this point in time?
Yeah, definitely both my parents, a huge factor. They get me to all my games when I was younger and practices and got all the stuff that I needed to be able to play. On the playing side of it, had a coach when I was younger. This was back when I was catching. His name's Kurt Ruth. Definitely a huge factor in my game and all the knowledge that I know now.
Yeah. Do you know, sports can be romantic. There's these moments that we have on the field that we'll never forget. When you look back on your sports experience, when someone says sports to you, when someone says baseball to you, what memory comes back in your mind that says that's a defining moment for me? That's why I love baseball. That was what success looked like for me. This was a moment I'm so proud that I was overcome. What moments come back into your mind over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years? And maybe it's not on the baseball field. Maybe it's out playing with your buddies football.
Yeah, it's just this last year, honestly, like I really enjoyed it, being able to play with my buddies for one last ride.
Yeah.
Um, Great time out there on the field. I mean, love playing.
Yeah. The Were you always excuse me, were you always this good? Were you always, some
I,
guys, here's an example. So last year I'm the scouting director for the Marlins. We drafted Noble Meyer at 10 overall. And then I came back and drafted Thomas White in the comp round, 2 high school pitchers. Okay. Noble Meyer took him a long time to get to where he was. Thomas White was great when he was 12 years old, 13 years old. Where do you fall in that spectrum? Were you always the best? Or was this a slow progression to become what you are and what you are right now and what you hope to become one day?
yeah, I would say I was always good. if I was still catching, I definitely would be here in the same boat.
Mhm.
Just I started pitching like sophomore years when it really kicked off. Is
Mhm.
so I would say, yeah, I've always been good. Either way, I was gonna find a spot here.
Sure. Oh, you're stealing my thunder on that. You got ahead of me on that question. I was going to ask you, this pitching thing isn't you're definitely not a PO. We know that. You're blasting home runs and all this kind of stuff, and it kicked in your sophomore year. So this wasn't 8th grade, ninth grade. You just started your sophomore year. And how did you take to it? What did you like about it? When did you know, hey, I think pitching might be my thing?
Yeah, it was like probably middle of junior year when I was like, okay, I could really make something out of this.
Mhm.
When I first started, really didn't like it. I was not a fan of being out in the middle of the field and having to throw every pitch. So I had to make it fun for me when I first started. I was doing all different kinds of stuff. I was like Nestor Cortez, but times 100. I was doing all
Oh yeah.
different kinds of stuff.
That's a good one. I was part of signing Nestor Cortez, and I still remember the day I saw him in Hialeah. And if you ever been to Hialeah, Florida, and watched high school baseball down there, they make it a lot of fun. And Nestor Cortez, to your point, was a lot of real entertaining to watch. And he was a low pick. He was I think we
Yeah.
took Nestor Cortez like in the 40th round or something like that. So tell everybody about your pitches here, because I know what they are. I think I know what they are. I think they're pretty exciting. When you look at your pitch package, talk about the development of your pitches and talk about the pitch that you're the most proud of. What's your weapon?
Yeah, I got a four-seam fastball. That's pretty much my main pitch that I'm throwing to hitters. Got a two-seam fastball. I'll usually throw those to right-handed hitters, never to lefties. Just
Mhm.
kind of how that's how I've always thrown them. So I have that. I got the slider. I call it a 12-6 curveball, but it tends to mix sometimes with the slider.
Mhm.
Um, I would say that's definitely the weapon pitch, though. It definitely gets a lot of guys out.
Do you
And then I
spike
got
it? Do you spike the pitch or
n-
no?
no, I'm more like fingers really close together. So if you're throwing a two seam on the like if you're on top of the seams, I'm just closer together on the right hand side of the seams, and like
Okay.
I'm just ripping down on the seam.
Where did that thing I've watched a lot of video. That thing is nasty. And I watch you throw it, and the thing is, the reason I asked you about spike, I'm not surprised you're telling me that you don't spike the baseball. I watch you throw it for strikes, and that's the one thing I look back on some of the young high school pitchers that I have seen that had really good breaking balls. One recently that you may know, Jackson Jobe, had a hard slider, a big 3,000 spin rate guy like yourself. And then I remember Sonny Gray, who I don't know if you know Sonny Gray or whatnot, but
Yep.
watching Sonny Gray in high school, players have a hard time controlling their secondary pitch. They really do, young players. And I watch you pitch and I see the video. I'm like, gosh, this guy, not only is it a hammer breaking ball, you call it a slider, but you can throw it in the strike zone. Were you always able to control your pitches like that? Is that something natural for you? Or did somebody along the way really help you get it in the zone as you refine the pitch?
No, it's always just been natural for me to just throw it in the zone. I feel like from catching when you're trying to make a throw down to second, you have to be in a certain zone. It just like for me, it just came easy.
Finding that arm slot, finding that release point, just not something
Yeah,
that you work that hard on it, which is very natural for you.
yeah,
So if you want to throw a strike, there's not much thought. I'm just going to throw a strike. If you get behind in a count, I'm just going to throw a strike. That's not hard. And that's harder. I'm sure you know other pitchers. That's harder for some guys to do than others. They get jammed up on the mound, they panic. And you seem to have this calm, cool, collected. And I watched the video again, stoic presence to you on the mound with like a quiet killer instinct. That's how I would describe you watching you pitch. Is that a fair assessment?
yeah, that's pretty fair.
Yeah, I can see that. How's the change development coming?
Yeah, it's definitely gotten better over the years. Been throwing it a lot lately now that our season's over. So just been throwing out at the park and been throwing it a lot. So definitely it's getting better.
Are you when you look down the road, Braylon, how do you young high school players a lot of times, and I know it's a little bit different now than maybe it was 10 years ago. We got access to a lot of different technology. Where do you fall on that spectrum? Are you a feel guy? Are you a tech guy? When something doesn't go right, are you going back to the tech or are you going back to the feel of being a catcher?
Yeah, it's more feel. I haven't been involved in tech at all. So honestly, the whole spin rate stuff, I didn't know any of that till the
Mhm.
area code game when I saw it up on the board and everybody was going crazy. So that was the
Right.
first time I ever saw any kind of tech. So I'm more of a
No
feel
pitch
guy, and
design, no pitch
yeah, just
design, none of that kind of stuff.
uh-uh.
Who
Yeah,
was it that
just
was influential then in your, because your stuff's good. You know, you're
yeah.
at 95, 94, 95, throwing strikes, ripping breaking balls for strikes. Who was influential along the way there to help you with that stuff?
Yeah, it's going back to when I was catching Kurt Ruth. He was the pitching coach for the travel ball team, and just watching him and how he was teaching the pitchers,
Mhm.
just was taking notes. And now that I'm pitching, I'm using that to my advantage.
Sure, sure. Do you how do you take care of yourself? Are you a workout guy? I mean, this is you got to treat your body like a temple. You got to, you got the golden arm and you're one of the top high school pitchers in the country. We have to keep the, your lower back and your elbow and your shoulder and all this kind of stuff has to stay. What types of routines have you developed uh, over the last year or so to keep yourself strong, to keep yourself healthy, all those kind of, and what do you plan to do going forward?
Yeah, for me, everything's just been here at the house in the garage. Uh, on like during the off season, I'll do more bodybuilding kind of stuff, and then getting closer into season, I'll do P90X, and then
Oh
in
yeah.
season, just maintaining the strength.
Good. So you've always been a workout guy. You enjoy it.
Yeah, it's just over the years, I've been building my own routine that I feel like has worked very well for me.
All right. So I've heard you described in different ways. So I'm going to put you on the hot seat here for a second.
Right.
I've heard stoic. I've heard poised. I've heard quiet killer on the mound, loves to compete. You just told me you like to work. If you can only have one, if you can only be one, we know that they're both important. Are you a worker or are you a competitor? You can only have one.
Definitely a worker. I'm gonna work.
You're going to work. All right.
Yep.
How about this week? What's before we get out of here? What are you doing this week? This is such a great time for teams as they reshape their organization and they hope they take the next great Zach Greinke or something like that. Or if you're taking a hitter, you're going to get Aaron Judge or another California guy. But what are you doing this week to prepare for the draft? And is it an exciting time for you and your family?
Yeah, definitely a very exciting time. Right now, just doing my regular routine on throwing, and I'll be fishing.
You know what? I was just gonna say that. Like some guys make it a big ordeal. Some guy, and it doesn't mean you're not excited if you're about it if you're going to go fishing, but people have
Yeah,
different releases in different ways. And so I love to hear that. The game doesn't seem like the game overwhelms you. It seems like you can take everything in stride. You got a great temperament to you. And for everyone at Prep Baseball, we wish you the best of luck. You got a great future ahead of you, Braylon, and we'll be rooting for you along the way. Okay.
sounds good. Thank you very much, DJ.
All right. Thanks for spending some time with us today.
No problem.
Okay. So there you have it. Brilann Dodie, one of the top high school right-handed pitchers in the country. I believe we have him 13th on our board. And draft boards are built by people and groups. They're not built by individuals. I think he might be my favorite high school right-handed pitcher in the country. I really like Ryan Sloan. I respect everything that Will Schmidt does. Great temperament, great poise. And when we start talking about all the things that a young high school pitcher brings to the table, what doesn't Brilann Dodie bring to the table? He has a now fastball, 92 to 96. He's got a power breaking ball right now in the strike zone. He throws strikes. He's athletic, clearly a great temperament to be a pitcher, and he can kick 65-yard field goals. It was 2022, and it was suggested that I shouldn't go see this right-handed pitcher, high school right-handed pitcher. But I went anyways, and I saw him, and he found his way to a really, really high spot on the board. And much like Braylon, he was only 6'1", 6'2". He wasn't a big 6'4" guy. And I remember we went back to the draft room, and I'm looking up at his magnet on the board, and I asked one of our scouts, I brought him up and I said, I want you to look at this magnet. And I want you to find another magnet on the board that looks like this. He couldn't find one. And there was that aha moment. Yeah, he's a high school right-handed pitcher, but you want to know something? Every single box was checked. Almost every box was checked. So when you run into a young high school right-handed pitcher and there aren't many flaws, makeup's good, and he's athletic, a lot of times there's not a reason to not take him. You have to be. That's how you get Zach Greinke. I'm DJ Svihlik. Until next time, this is the War Room.